Our planet is home to incredible mountains, but beauty often comes with danger. Behind every breathtaking view lies a place that has taken lives and tested human limits. Today, I invite you on a journey across all 7 continents to discover which mountain is the deadliest in each part of the world. There is no single way to measure danger, but for this exploration, we will look at a few key things. How many people have died trying to climb it? How severe the weather and terrain are? How isolated it is and how hard it is to escape once things go wrong? And finally, how unpredictable the mountain truly is. Each of these peaks demands respect, and each reveals danger in its own way. Some are covered in snow and ice, others burn with fire, some lure climbers with their beauty, others hide in clouds where few have ever set foot. From the tallest walls of Asia to the silent volcanoes of Antarctica, every continent holds a challenge that reminds us how fragile we really are. Our journey begins in Europe, where the deadliest mountain of all is also one of the most climbed. The highest peak in the European Union sits on the border between France and Italy. Mont Blanc doesn't come to mind when people think of the world's deadliest mountains, yet it has claimed more than 8,000 lives, the most recorded deaths of any mountain on Earth. That staggering number is not because Mont Blanc is the most dangerous technically, but because of how many people attempt it. Every year, around 20,000 climbers try to reach the summit. Many are inexperienced, underprepared, or underestimate the mountain because it looks accessible and close to civilization. The first successful ascent took place on August 8, 1786, by Jacques Balmat and Dr. Michel Gabriel Picard. That climb marked the birth of modern mountaineering. Since then, Mont Blanc has become both a symbol of adventure and a reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in the high Alps. The main dangers come from rockfall, crevasses, avalanches, and sudden weather changes. The Grand Couloir, a steep gully on the most popular route, is notorious for falling rocks that can strike without warning. Warming temperatures in recent decades have made the problem worse, melting the permafrost that once held the mountain together. Rescue teams in Chamonix carry out hundreds of operations each summer. In busy weekends, they can respond to more than a dozen incidents in a single day. Official numbers vary, but estimates suggest 10 to 20 climbers die each year on the main routes, and many more across the wider Mont Blanc Massif. Despite its reputation, the mountain still draws people from all over the world. Some come for the challenge, others simply for the view from the summit. Few realize that this elegant white dome has taken more lives than Everest, K2, and Annapurna combined. Mont Blanc stands as a paradox. Beautiful, famous, and deceptively close to safety, yet lethal for those who forget that even Europe's tallest peak demands absolute respect. But our journey doesn't end in Europe. As we leave the snowfields of Mont Blanc behind and cross the Mediterranean, we arrive in Africa, a continent of heat, storms, and towering volcanoes. Most people think of Kilimanjaro, but we're not going there. The real danger lies farther south on Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya rises just north of the equator, its jagged peaks piercing the clouds of central Kenya. At 5,199 meters, it is the second highest mountain in Africa, yet far more dangerous than its famous neighbor, Kilimanjaro. From a distance, it looks calm and inviting, surrounded by lush forests and clear alpine lakes. But as climbers move higher, the mountain changes. The air thins, the rock steepens, and the weather turns violent in minutes. Over its recent history, the mountain has claimed lives in many ways. A warden from the Kenya Wildlife Service reported that since 1985, at least 150 people have died on Mount Kenya. Some falls happen on slippery slopes or unstable rock, others from altitude sickness or surprise storms. In 2023, a British climber and her Kenyan guide both fell to their deaths during descent from a high peak on the mountain after slipping on ice. The first successful ascent of its highest peak, Batian, was made in 1899 by Halford Mackinder, with his guides César Ollier and Joseph Brocarel. Their climb took weeks through dense forest and uncharted ridges. It was one of the great early achievements in African exploration, and it revealed just how complex and unpredictable this mountain is. Mount Kenya's danger lies in its deception. The lower routes feel like a hike, but the final sections demand real mountaineering skill. The mountain changes character quickly, from soft ground and misty forest to vertical ice and sheer granite towers. Many climbers reach the high camps unprepared for the cold, the altitude, and the technical rock climbing needed to reach the twin summits of Bedian and Nelion. Rescue operations are difficult. Weather can close in so fast that helicopters cannot fly, leaving stranded climbers to face long nights in freezing rain or snow. The glaciers that once covered the upper mountain have retreated dramatically, leaving loose rock and deep crevasses in their place. Scientists say the ice here could disappear completely within a few decades. Mount Kenya may not be Africa's tallest, but it is its most unpredictable, a place where tropical warmth meets alpine violence, and for those who climb it unprepared, it often becomes their last view of Africa. From Africa's volcanic heart, we move east, across the Indian Ocean, toward the vast mountains of Asia. Here, the scale of danger changes completely. These are not peaks for tourists or casual climbers. The mountains of Asia are the realm of giants, where thin air, extreme cold, and avalanches decide who lives and who never returns. In the Himalayas, the name Annapurna evokes both awe and dread. At 8,091 meters, Annapurna 1 was the first 8,000-meter peak ever climbed on June 3, 1950, by Maurice Herzog and Louis Lacanal. It also carries a fearsome reputation. For a long time, it held the highest fatality-to-summit ratio of all the major 8,000ers. Climbers say skill is not enough here. You have to be lucky. The terrain is steep, the weather unpredictable, and avalanches constantly threaten. For more in-depth information, check out my last video where I rank all of the 8,000-meter peaks from easiest to deadliest and take a closer look at Annapurna. But for today's exploration, we're not stopping there. We're flying deeper into Asia, to China's vast interior, to a mountain even fewer have heard of, yet its danger is profound. We leave Nepal's towering Annapurna and travel to the province of Sichuan. Here stands Mount Gongga, also known as Minya Konka, elevation 7,509 meters. It is the 41st highest peak in the world and the third highest outside the Himalaya and Karakoram ranges. It is also the easternmost 7,000-meter summit on Earth, isolated and wild. Only a handful of climbers have ever stood on its summit. The first ascent was made in October 1932 by an American team led by Terrace Moore and Richard Birdsall. Their expedition took weeks through deep valleys, glaciers, and unpredictable weather, at a time when maps of the region were barely accurate. Since then, very few have managed to repeat their success. As of the late 1990s, there were 22 confirmed summiters and 16 confirmed fatalities. Other reports suggest more than 30 deaths and fewer than 25 successful summits, giving it a fatality ratio as high as 70 to 80%. Why is Mount Gongga so deadly? First, the weather. Storms appear without warning. The ridges and faces are steep, covered in glaciers, and constantly threatened by falling rock and ice. Second, its isolation makes rescue almost impossible. The deep gorges surrounding it make access slow and dangerous. And third, its unpredictability. Climbers have died even after reaching the summit. Routes change every season, and one small mistake often means the end. In 1981, 8 Japanese climbers died here in a single tragic fall. Today, while Annapurna still stands as a symbol of extreme risk among the 8,000ers, Mount Gongga represents something different. Fewer climbers, higher risk, and a mountain that demands more than strength or ambition. It demands survival and loads of luck. From the frozen giants of Asia, we now fly south. The glaciers fade, the air grows heavy, and green returns to the land. Our journey crosses the South China Sea, then the endless islands of Indonesia, until we reach Papua, a land of rainforest, mist, and stone towers rising straight out of the jungle. Here stands the tallest mountain between the Himalayas and the Andes. Puncak Jaya, also known as Karsten's Pyramid, rises to 4,884 meters above sea level. It is the highest point in Oceania, and the only place in the tropics where you can find permanent glaciers, though they are vanishing fast. Unlike many mountains on this list, the danger here is not altitude alone. The climb is a combination of sharp limestone towers, vertical cliffs, and extreme isolation. Located in Indonesia's Papua province, it sits deep inside a restricted mining region, surrounded by some of the roughest terrain on Earth. Reaching the base of the mountain often requires days of travel, through dense rainforest and unstable ground. The first successful ascent was made in 1962 by Austrian mountaineer Heinrich Herrer, who later wrote about his experience in the book, I Come from the Stone Age. Herrer described the climb as both surreal and terrifying. A wall of rock emerging from jungle mist, where every hold was wet and every ledge uncertain. What makes Puncak Jaya especially dangerous is how unpredictable it can be. Rain can fall for hours without stopping, turning the rock into polished glass. Visibility drops to nothing, and temperatures near the summit fall below freezing even though it lies just 4 degrees south of the equator. The glaciers, once large and solid, have shrunk dramatically. Their melting has loosened the rock beneath, creating constant risk of collapse and rockfall. Rescue operations are almost impossible. The nearest major city is hundreds of kilometers away, and weather often prevents helicopters from flying. Climbers who injure themselves or lose their footing have little hope of quick evacuation. Several fatal accidents have occurred in recent decades, mostly during descent when rain and fatigue make the rock even more treacherous. Adding to the difficulty is the political situation. Access to the region is heavily restricted, and permits are difficult to obtain. Many expeditions have been delayed or canceled entirely due to local tensions or sudden government bans. Despite all this, Puncak Jaya remains a sought-after summit for climbers attempting the 7 summits, the highest peak on each continent. For those who make it, the view from the top is surreal. Tropical jungle stretching endlessly below, clouds swirling between stone spires, and the last remnants of equatorial ice glinting in the sun. But it is also a reminder of how fragile this place has become. Its glaciers are dying, its slopes are unstable, and the line between success and tragedy is as thin as the air at its summit. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing. 99.9% of you are not. Let's continue. From the steaming jungles of Papua, we turn south once more. The islands disappear beneath the clouds. The blue of the ocean deepens, and soon the world below turns white. We cross into a continent of ice and silence, a place untouched by time, where nothing grows and nothing forgives. Here, at the edge of the earth, the deadliest peak is not made of cold stone, but of living fire. Mount Erebus rises from the frozen surface of Ross Island, towering 3,794 meters above the Southern Ocean. It is the southernmost active volcano on Earth and one of the most isolated. Its slopes are covered in ice and snow, but at its heart burns a lava lake that has been active for decades. It is a place where fire and ice exist side by side, and both can kill without warning. Erebus was first discovered in 1841 by British explorer James Clark Ross, who named it after one of his ships. Since then, it has remained a natural laboratory of extremes. Temperatures drop below minus 50 degrees Celsius, and storms can appear in minutes. The air itself can freeze exposed skin, and even a small mistake in navigation can be fatal. Climbers face hidden crevasses, violent winds, and complete isolation. Any rescue attempt must travel thousands of kilometers through some of the most hostile terrain on the planet. Scientists who work near the summit face their own dangers. Erebus constantly releases toxic gases, and explosions inside the lava lake can hurl molten rock hundreds of meters into the air. These fragments, called volcanic bombs, can land far beyond the crater rim with almost no warning. The ground shakes regularly, and fissures open underfoot as heat melts the glacier from below. Yet despite everything, Erebus continues to attract researchers and explorers, drawn by its rare mix of beauty and threat. It is one of only a few volcanoes on Earth with a permanent lava lake, a living window into the planet's inner fire hidden beneath a continent of ice. But Erebus also carries a darker memory. On November 28, 1979, Air New Zealand Flight 901, a sightseeing tour from Auckland, crashed directly into the mountain while flying through thick cloud. All 257 people on board were killed instantly. Fragments of the aircraft and personal belongings still lie scattered across the ice, a silent warning of how unforgiving this place can be. Mount Erebus stands alone at the end of the world, burning quietly in the coldest place on Earth, a reminder that even here, nature never truly rests. From the endless white of Antarctica, we turn north. The ice fades to ocean, then to the green spine of the Andes stretching along the coast of South America. Here the air is thin again, but the danger is different. In this land of towering cliffs and deep valleys lies a mountain that tests not only skill and endurance, but the will to survive. Our journey continues to Peru and to Siula Grande. Deep in the Peruvian Andes stands Siula Grande, a mountain of ice, stone, and tragedy. It rises 6,344 meters above sea level in the Cordillera Huayhuash Range, a remote and hostile wilderness where storms build without warning and avalanches sweep entire faces clean. Siula Grande might not be the tallest in South America, but its reputation is unmatched. It became famous after one of the most extraordinary survival stories in mountaineering history. In 1985, two British climbers, Joe Simpson and Simon Yates, made the first ascent of the mountain's west face, an almost vertical wall of ice and rock that had never been climbed before. Their descent turned into a nightmare that would later be told in the book and film, Touching the Void. During the climb down, Simpson fell and broke his leg high on the mountain. Yates tried to lower him with ropes through a blizzard, but eventually had to cut the line when Simpson's weight threatened to pull them both to their deaths. Against all odds, Simpson survived alone, crawling for 3 days and nights across glaciers and crevasses until he reached their base camp. It remains one of the greatest tales of endurance ever recorded. But even without that story, Siula Grande is a place of constant danger. The weather here is notoriously unpredictable. A clear morning can become a whiteout within minutes. Temperatures plummet below -20 degrees, and the mountain's steep flanks are carved by hanging seracs and unstable cornices that collapse without warning. Every approach route is exposed to avalanches. The altitude adds another layer of threat, draining strength and clarity from even the most experienced climbers. Few attempt Siula Grande today. It lies far from any major settlement, and reaching its base requires days of trekking through remote valleys and thin air. Those who try often do so in small teams, carrying everything on their backs, fully aware that rescue is nearly impossible. A fall or serious injury up there means waiting for help that may never come. In recent years, the mountain has seen more fatalities as melting glaciers loosen the rock and open new crevasses. The changing climate has made an already unstable peak even more unpredictable. Siula Grande is not a mountain that invites crowds. It doesn't reward ambition with fame or easy victory. It tests patience, courage, and luck, the same elements that once separated life from death for Simpson and Yates. In the heart of the Andes, surrounded by silence and snow, Siula Grande stands as a monument to survival and the thin line between success and tragedy. From the rugged heart of the Andes, we fly north across the equator. The air grows colder again, the forests give way to tundra, and the continent rises into frozen wilderness. Ahead lies Alaska, a land of endless snowfields, towering peaks, and brutal storms. Here stands one of the coldest and most unforgiving mountains on Earth. Our journey ends with Denali. In the far north of Alaska rises a mountain so vast it seems to hold its own weather. Denali stands 6,190 meters above sea level, making it the highest peak in North America. Its name means the High One in the Koyukon language, spoken by the indigenous people who have lived in its shadow for generations. The first successful ascent came in 1913, when Hudson Stuck, Harry Karstens, Walter Harper, and Robert Tatum reached the summit after weeks of hardship through brutal cold. Harper, a young Alaska native, was the first to stand on top, marking one of the great early achievements in mountaineering history. But Denali's story is not one of glory. It is a story of endurance, misjudgment, and survival against the odds. More than 100 people have died here since climbing began, most of them on the upper slopes where storms and exhaustion meet. Between 1903 and 2006, there were 96 recorded deaths, a fatality rate of about 3 deaths for every 1,000 summit attempts. On some routes, the number climbs even higher, The danger comes from extremes that few other mountains can match. Though it is lower than the Himalayas, Denali's position near the Arctic Circle makes it far colder. Summits can feel as cold as minus 60 degrees Celsius, and winds often reach hurricane force. The air is thinner here than at the same altitude elsewhere, making every step harder and every breath shorter. Climbers face whiteouts that erase the horizon, avalanches that sweep through entire valleys, and temperatures that can freeze exposed skin in seconds. Even at the base camps, frostbite and altitude sickness are common. Helicopter rescues are limited by weather and altitude, and those who fall ill high on the mountain are often trapped until conditions clear. Denali doesn't forgive mistakes. It doesn't care about records or ambition. It demands respect from everyone who steps onto its slopes, because here, you don't conquer the mountain, you endure it. We've crossed every continent and faced the deadliest mountains on Earth. Each one reminds us how small we are next to nature's power. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me, which of these mountains would you dare to climb?